Welcome everyone to the Moses Lake City Council meeting. Today is Tuesday, August 8th at 6:30. Citizen comment request needs to be turned in prior to the start of the meeting to determine if 5 minutes per speaker needs to be reduced in order for all requests to be heard. The blue speaker card request card can be found in the vestibule and turned into Deputy City Clerk. Citizens who have requested to address the council will be called on at the appropriate time to make your comments. If there are any students, well, we don't have to worry about that because we're in summer. Will the deputy clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Mayor Myers. Councilmember Fancher,
Present.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Present.
Councilmember Madewell,
Present.
Councilmember Skog,
Present.
Councilmember Eck,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Martinez,
Present.
Mayor Myers.
Present. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does any council member wish to move a consent agenda item to a business item for individual discussion and vote, or make other modifications for tonight's agenda? Hearing none, I accept a motion.
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We do have a presentation today. We can start with McKinstry Energy Efficiency and Landscaping Project, unless this is downtown, it's been postponed. Okay, so yeah, the McKinstry Energy Efficiency and Landscaping Project.
Hi, I'm Josh McPherson, Facilities Manager for the city. So we've been working on a couple projects, presentations to offer with the Department of Enterprise Services with the state. Our first project that we were looking at is the lighting within the museum. Currently, there is about 120 can lights in there. They all have halogen bulbs. As of August 1st, you can no longer purchase halogen bulbs. So we need to look at retrofitting those to LEDs. The current control system in there doesn't really like LEDs. It is specifically designed for incandescent lighting. So part of the offer will be to upgrade the control system to a more LED friendly and reliable system that also doesn't use touchscreen panels that are starting to fail on us. The second project was landscaping around the Civic Center here. That was part of the water conservation measures we were requested to look into. We came up with a pretty good design that really offered a bunch of different demonstration gardens, different types of landscaping for low water consumption. But we also have some proposals at the end of different projects that we've been looking at. And yeah, you want to go?
Thanks, Josh. Good evening. Thank you for having us here. My name is Sean Pelfrey. I'm with McKinstry. Glad to be here. Just kind of came onto this project, so learning a little bit more about it. I've enjoyed walking around and seeing, getting to learn your guys' museum and the issues that you had there, and then understand the landscaping issues and what you guys are looking for in water conservation. McKinstry, we do a multitude of different projects and different processes for our department. We are a design build process. We're an ESCO. And we were approached by the city of Moses Lake to research and kind of look into multiple projects for different phases along the way for improvements to the city infrastructure, including lighting, landscaping, space design, citywide lighting, issues along those lines. So we came in, we walked around, our engineers came in, we took a look around at everything. We kind of got an idea of everything that was going on here in the city, understanding what your needs were based on the information and the feedback that we got from city personnel. We then went in the stage that we're at now, we just completed what is known as an investment grade audit, which allowed us to go in and create a proposal that shows the costs, what will be done, how it will be applied, and all the different aspects of the project, which is where we currently are right now. With the proposals that the stuff that we're gonna talk to you about tonight, which would the next step would be then go enter into, once it's approved and we move to that next stage, we will go into proposals like would then enter into the contract with DES, Washington State entity DES, moving forward. My colleague here is going to go through the different projects we've talked about and kind of give you an overview of what we're looking at.
Hello, my name is Luke Cashman. We're out of the Spokane office for McKinstry, by the way. And I've been on this project since the beginning. So I've been a developer is what I do. I'm a building energy engineer and developer. And so I know the story behind how all of these projects came to be. The two projects that we have to present today are the ones that I have carried all the way to a guaranteed max price and a guaranteed max or guaranteed energy savings as well. Starting with the lighting, obviously, like Josh touched upon, there's a need to upgrade the lighting. So we moved forward with this one after looking at citywide options. We moved forward with this one to a G-max price and an energy savings to solve those problems of the low lighting, to get ahead of the problems of not being able to obtain halogen bulbs, and to also solve the end user problem of the touchscreen doesn't work. The controls are very tedious to work. And so that it's a great space. It's an event space. It's a space that can be used for a variety of different pieces, including student learning. And so having control over your lighting can make a big difference in a space like the museum. So those are the existing conditions. And I'm going to move through the museum, starting at the gift shop and moving my way all the way over to the classroom space. And right here, we're just looking at better illumination by moving the track light, which is that black bar you see across the ceiling there, moving it actually towards the center of the space a little bit to better illuminate that alcove area. It's probably something that could have been or should have been done at the very beginning, but we're going to be, while we're going in, we're just going to fix that. And then I'm going to move to the next slide to show the main museum gallery. And what I really want to highlight here is the addition of new can lights that are going to go in that soffit ceiling there, that white space just underneath the sliding glass doors. Those are going to parallel that entire length. And by adding those lights, we're going to be solving the problem where a lot of the illumination of the space comes from the art light, from the task lighting there, the lights on the track. And so by giving the functionality of those track lights back to the space where they should be doing illuminating the art, we can allow for better illumination, more fine-tuned control, and just a better experience overall in the space. And so those will go down towards the gift shop as well. Moving into the museum classroom now, from where we're basically standing in this photo, you can see a little bit of the exposed ceiling there above. There's two existing track lights, those black metal track lights with the halogen bulbs as they are today. We're going to take those down, move those into the museum. So that, again, they're for the art and there's not really art in the classroom. So let's move them into the space where they're best utilized and replace those with a just LED linear light, and keep the same level of controls, keep the same switches, same dimming capability, and add new can lights where you see the white soffitted area. Now I'm going to be moving all the way to the end of this photo, kind of back into the space. You can kind of see the lower ceiling area. Parallel to this entire journey that we've taken down is I'm calling the back of house for the museum space. All of those lights that we see, those 4 lights we see in this classroom, and all of the lights that are parallel along that area in the back of house, including museum storage and there's bathrooms and etc. All of those lights are going to remain the same because they're already efficient, or they're not used nearly as often because they're in like a large, mostly storage space. We're going to leave those as is. And finally, coming back all the way to the lighting controls, it's going to be a new control panel that's going to go in right next to the existing control panel. That control panel controls this entire building. The rest of the building will remain on that lighting control system. Nothing will change about that. But the lighting control that you have with zone controls with 10 zones of that museum, you're still going to have the same level of control as you have today. And from the point of view of the user, the same functionality of the control system will remain as it is today. But it's going to work a lot better and kind of continue the design, the initial design intent of being able to illuminate the museum precisely the way that they want with different zone controls, and just better lighting and better functionality. So that's a little bit about the museum. If it's okay with everybody, I'm gonna just keep going into the water conservation piece, and we'll wrap for questions for both of these projects at the end. Okay. So this is about the water conservation project, which would be doing a landscaping project all around the Civic Center, all around the annex and the Parks and Police building, but cutting the line off where the park starts, right where the emergency vehicle access road is. That's pretty much right where the line is of where we're going to stop. And the idea is to save water and also provide some demonstration gardens to the people of Moses Lake. There would be an area where we're keeping turf grass, but we're going to be putting in a turf grass that uses less water, 3 different types, so people can see you can still have turf grass and save water. And here's how much that saves, both in amount of water and the amount of money. And then there's going to be, that's going to be kind of the most water intensive. And then we're going to be moving to all the way down to the least water intensive through a course of different gardens that I'll highlight next. So this design was by McKinstry and a landscape architect at Architects West. They've done many projects. They're really, we also partnered with the local Heritage Gardens community and made sure to reach out to a lot of people that work for the city and with the city on these kinds of things. So to make sure we got a full grasp of what kind of gardens would make the most sense for this area. So for existing conditions, the water usage for all areas is pretty intense for all of these areas that we're talking about doing the work. But that just kind of gave us an idea of how much water we can save. Up here, we have it compared to the average home in Moses Lake and how much consumption there is per day there. And here is the proposed work for planting. And you can kind of see there's a Native American garden, Native Washington State garden, scabland, some dry shade, all the way down the list there. So the new water usage, I'm actually happy to say we can save now 75% since I submitted these slides last week, we actually found out that the existing water usage was higher because due to my own mistake, we forgot to add in one building's water meter data to the existing usage. So the existing usage was higher. The proposed water usage remains the same. And the total reduction ended up being 75% less water, or about 750,000 gallons a year. So we are really excited about that. And I'm gonna actually leave it here instead of moving to the last slide. And I think everyone's ready. We'll open it up for questions. We'll open it up for questions or any comments from the council.
Did city staff have anything to present on this as well?
Mayor, I just want to add that this is listed as an action item tonight after the presentation. I would ask that if you want to ask questions, and that we bring this back at the next meeting as old business that we can have a conversation about to answer any questions that you have about the projects and the costs, and if there's any other information that you want from staff prior to making a decision.
Councilmember Madewell?
So I have a question. Can you kind of give us an estimation of how many acres of grass we have around this area? Do you have any idea?
The square footage, I believe, was 31,000 square feet.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
31,000 square feet. So just 10,000 square feet shy of an acre.
Okay. And then I noticed that you have it per day. Do we water our grass here per day?
No, the per day was just for a comparison. So we took the information from utility billing of monthly and just divided it down to a per day as an example.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Martinez?
So to clarify, you want to bring both of these back later?
Yeah, I would just have to go back
Both of them.
to the next meeting. Yeah, and then the council can decide on what they want to do with both projects.
Thank you.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yeah, could you go a little bit further into the relationship with DES and how that works?
Absolutely. Want me to take it?
Yeah, before you, I'm pretty small on this one too.
So the contract with the city is with DES. And then the contract with McKinstry is also with DES. So essentially, they are there to make sure that we hold our word, that we are acting in good faith, and good faith that we have Moses Lake's best interests, and that we do what we say we're going to do. And especially when it comes to guaranteed max pricing, guaranteed energy savings, that we aren't short selling, that we aren't manipulating any kind of numbers, that kind of thing. They're a oversight to make sure that we hold true to our word. So Department of Enterprise Services does a lot in the state. In this case, this would be their energy as a service arm. And so all they do is overlook various ESCO companies, including McKinstry. And any kind of ESPC contract has to go through them. Doesn't have to go through them. There actually are other options, but most of them, end of the state, go through DES.
Okay, and so the project parameters generally have to fall within some metrics that they've established as far as watts versus dollars and all of those sorts of things. Is that the idea?
As far as metrics, there are some, they're there to help with the contract negotiations at the beginning to set those kind of things up, kinds of things up. But they are, for those specific pieces, they're going to be project to project. Just to make sure that at the very beginning, before we enter into a contract, that what you're looking for and we say is possible is actually that there's a pathway to get there. that we're not promising, smoke and mirrors kind of thing from the very beginning. And so once those are set up, those are in the contract and then as goals to pursue all the way through to the end.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fancher.
So you made a comment about, and it just caught my attention regarding finding another meter. There was another building with a meter. So are all of these meters separate irrigation meters?
So the Civic Center has its separate own irrigation meter, the annex and the police department, the domestic meter also does irrigation. So we had to remove the building use to get the irrigation use.
How do we do that?
Count the number of fixtures, gallons per minutes on fixture. There's an average formula for the engineering side on that one.
Councilmember Scott.
Yeah, you talked about reusing the existing lighting control capacity. Does it work right now?
The control system,
Yep.
it does. When we convert to LEDs, because we can no longer purchase the halogen lamps. You have some control, but dimming an LED off of an incandescent controller, it's a different functionality, so you don't really get the dimming function per se. But it will turn on, yes.
I guess I know when this was put in, that was a real elaborate
That was a very.
state of the art that nobody could run.
That's still the case.
And there were a number of things put into the building that were just going to be the end all and do all.
Correct.
And
And
kind of fell flat.
that is one of two systems that are identical. The other one is in the auditorium. And I would hope to do it like maybe a phase 2 option.
Well, I guess I was just wondering whether they're talking about incorporating existing systems.
No, so
My
we're-
question is, are those existing systems that you're going to incorporate workable?
Incorporating. So the new LED lighting would be switched over to, I think it was a Lutron system that was offered. And they would essentially just abandon the stuff coming out of the current controls to those systems. So some of the systems would still work off of the original panel until we can retrofit the rest of the building.
Any other questions or comments? We will hear this again at our next meeting.
Okay, can I also announce? As part of this program as well, back in March, we applied for a grant for solar on this building, and as of 5:30 today, we were noticed that we got that grant. So hopefully that'll be this. Plus storage, yes, so we'll provide solar and battery backup for this entire facility. So we will bring more. Next go around. We weren't prepared. We just got the email at 5:30 today, so.
Hey, Josh, let the council know how much that grant's for.
That grant was up to, we requested 1.5 million and so. 1.5 million.
And I would also, Mayor, I would also add that with our power outage yesterday morning, we were actually starting to have conversations yesterday about putting generator backup in this facility. So this would give us that battery backup for 3 days.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, council.
Okay, we can move on to the citizens' communication. The council invites citizen comments to hear from the public on matters before the council or relevant to the council's business. The council values free expression of all points of view as an important democratic value in this community. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. If others have already expressed your views, you may simply indicate that you agree with the previous speaker. The council expects respect for those who have positions with which one may disagree, so debate or interactive discussions are strictly prohibited. Please refrain from applause after each speaker and only address your comments to the council and not to the staff or audience. Council may request staff research comments received for potential future action. And please take private conversations outside. When you are called to speak, please begin with stating your name and city of residence for the record. We will start with Mr. Andrew Copen.
My name is Andrew Copen. I live in Pelican Point, Moses Lake. As you're getting those there. Last Sunday, I was surprised to find city licensed vehicles parked in my driveway instead of the city facilities. The pictures that you see on pages 1 to 3 clearly shows vehicles with city plates on my property. On page 4 and 5, you'll notice 2 more vehicles with different license plates parked there. These images provide undeniable proof that city employees are using my property for parking without permission. These visuals outmatch the city's automated license plate readers cameras, which I will call LPRs as I'm continuing, and were captured on my cell phone camera. Now, here's the truth. While these pictures are unadulterated, and you can see them on my cell phone if you really want to, the license plates aren't. This Sunday, I drove to City Hall, took photos of city vehicles' license plate, and with a few minutes at home, I created very realistic clones of them. I would bet that these clones would register with the city's LPRs as city vehicles. And with just a bit more care, I could have made these plates to fool even police most of the time. As a system test engineer, I possess other methods that would likely enable me to circumvent these LPRs. If I can easily outsmart LPRs, so can and so do criminals. I chose this approach first because of its simplicity and directness. I can now write a book outlining scenarios on how cloned license plate can be used against not only the state, but against individuals when the city has LPRs. Yet do organized criminals fear these cameras? Not really. They would just avoid them. Additionally, House Bill 1054 restricts police tactics if a person refuses to stop. And the question arises, what is the point of arresting anyone for car crimes if they are released faster than they can be taken to jail once apprehended? Criminals and other people circumventing these LPRs isn't my biggest concern about them. A bigger concern to me is false positive matches, which occur at an alarming rate. False positive matches has resulted in innocent people being stopped at gunpoint and even severely injured by police. Can you imagine a woman being pulled over and yanked out of her car by gunpoint by police? You don't need to imagine, as it has actually happened. Is the city ready for a false positive LPR match starting a massive lawsuit against the city? Also, false matches isn't my only big concern. Another is the misuse of this technology. A police officer was charged with stalking his wife in 2022 using an LPR. LPRs have also tracked people attending political rallies. They have also been used to target particular people of demographics or particular demographics. The present day misuse of these LPRs isn't even my most significant worry. It is the alarming potential that they hold for shaping a police state in the future, a state where individuals are subjected to intensified surveillance followed by stops and searches. This raises concerns about profiling people based on their affiliations, be it churches or Planned Parenthood, or the sticker they place on their cars, NRA sticker or a Biden sticker. These cameras could easily be exploited for purposes of blackmail and selective enforcement targeting specific demographics. Perhaps you could justify the creation of a police state if it resulted in reduced crime. However, alerts for known vehicles of illegal aliens are currently shut off, and House Bill 1054 prevents police from pursuing stolen cars. Research has shown that LPRs yield minimal results with less than 0.3% of hits, leading to actionable leads related to crimes. The primary intention of these cameras is not to decrease crime, but rather to increase the revenue for both the state and the companies supplying them. These companies value the data that they are collecting at government expense, as it is more accurate than any data they can collect on Facebook. They are aware that people often provide false information on Facebook about their demographics, whereas the data they obtain from government is much more accurate due to the legal requirement of providing truthful information. I am 100% against LPRs. I can easily give a 1-hour speech on them if permitted, outlining the dangers, pitfalls, and more. I am fully in favor of the police spending more money on training, equipment, and assistance. I am wholeheartedly supportive of the police. I believe Moses Lake Police should have the best equipment, the finest training, and the strongest support we can offer. While I stand 100% behind the police, I am 150% against veering towards a police state with these cameras. Thank you.
Do have some questions or a comment from the council here. Deputy Mayor Martinez.
We've talked about these cameras before. Council's approved them. Can you, Kevin, clarify again who has access to the information that these cameras and how is it utilized?
Every officer has access to the system. They are only to be utilized for investigations into crime. They are used, and I actually had Interim Chief Sands pull some statistics on the cameras. We've had them for just over a month now. The stationary cameras we've just had over for a month. We've had ALPR in our department for about 7 years. So most of our cars have a moving ALPR in the video system. So, and per policy, there's an audit to make sure that people aren't abusing the system. Mr. Copen brought up some examples. None of that has ever happened in Moses Lake, nor will it under me. So, Caps, if you don't mind, I could have him give some statistics.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so this started, I think it was July 1st or thereabouts officially. I just pulled the different shifts to get an idea. From the system itself, we've had 340 hits on various plates or vehicles because you can actually put a vehicle type in there. We have solved burglaries. We've recovered stolen vehicles. We've recovered theft suspects, hit and run suspects, which if you've ever been a victim of a hit and run, they're not the easiest cases unless they're nice enough to leave a license plate behind or something on the ground. So just off the top of my stats, we've recovered 4 or 5 stolen vehicles. I just got a text before the meeting, as the meeting was starting. We had a bank robbery at Giza. The camera, one of the cameras gave us a hit on a potential suspect. So I can't get any more immediate than that as far as an example.
And what I will tell you is before we put our cameras up, I met with the Yakima chief. Yakima started the program in our area. And the amount of success that they had with the cameras in the short period of time that they had was remarkable. In so much in that they caught a hit and run driver that actually hit a bicyclist and killed him. The ALPR is what located the truck that was used in that hit and run fatal accident, and they were able to make an arrest. So I get that there can be issues with these, but the positives of solving crime is the reason that we were given the grant and the reason we put these in.
Thank you.
Councilmember Scott.
Another question for you, Chief, or Kevin. Do the providers of the camera have access to that information that they collect, and can they sell that?
So here's what I'll tell you. It is their data. We lease these cameras from them. So the data is stored on their server. We have access through their site. I don't believe they're allowed to sell it. Matter of fact, I believe in our contract, there was some language about basically us owning the data, them storing the data, but I believe there was something in there about that they would not provide that to anything other than for investigation purposes.
Could anybody get a hold of them and say, I'm interested in?
No, absolutely not. Now, even for us, so we can share with Yakima, Yakima can share with us, same with Wenatchee, same with the Tri-Cities, Spokane has them. We can, and we will sign agreements with all of the other agencies to share our information. So if they have a homicide suspect in Spokane that is in a vehicle, they'll put it in the system. We'll have access to that. So if they drive through Moses Lake and it hits our system, then we can recover some of their and that has happened with Seattle. If they have a homicide, they'll put out a teletype and say, this person left, they're in this vehicle, we'll get the teletype. Well, now it will go into the computer system So if they come into Moses Lake to get gas or to use the bathroom or whatever, and it hits our system, it gives us the ability to arrest people that are wanted for crimes outside of our city. So I will tell you, it is a fantastic tool. And again, as Mr. Copeland said, I mean, if it's used for ill purposes, then bad things can come out of it. But we will make sure that that doesn't happen here.
And if I could just say as well, I know Mr. Copeland raised concern about an uninvolved vehicle. As part of the process, the officer has to actually lay eyes on that and make a confirmation through dispatch that we have the right vehicle. I'm not saying mistakes can't happen. I'm not saying that it's an impossibility, but nor is it any less of an impossibility if we just get a witness that gives us a license plate. And so certainly stuff can happen, but we try to minimize the risk where we can. So.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Jeremy Nolan.
Good evening, Jeremy Nolan, 810 Camas Place from Moses Lake. Touching on two topics that were just presented by McKinstry. So the first, the museum lighting, that's a $300,000 project. It sounds like it may not be avoidable. If it is, if there's an alternative to halogen that's not LED that would be compatible with their current systems, it appears that $300,000 could be used for a higher priority water solutions project. Something that be, now the museum, you want to see that be vibrant. Is there an alternative solution that could be, much less costly? So I'd urge you to look at that. The second piece with the landscaping around the Civic Center, I urge you to avoid that. That is extremely expensive. What it demonstrates is that going to low water usage landscaping is extremely expensive for very little water savings. So when you look at that, the water savings that they had in their presentation, roughly 3,000 gallons a day, that's equivalent to about 6 homes of running irrigation water to 6 homes instead of the city water system. About $100,000 a home. So if the data, that they brought up, so I appreciate the clarification on that, is that it's actually a little bit bigger savings. Does that work out to somewhere $30,000 to $50,000 a home to run water past for irrigation systems? Again, still extremely expensive. I believe that $600,000 that is proposed for that could be much better used in a long-term solution that would be more cost effective for bigger water savings over a wider area than simply here at the Civic Center. That's it.
Thank you. Alicia DeLuigi. She put in a request, but I don't see her in the audience. I don't know if she's online.
Mayor, she dropped that off earlier. She said she was going to be late and wanted to reserve her spot, but she didn't say when she was going to be here. So,
okay. We will move on to the mayor's report. Grant County Commissioners emailed an invitation to elected officials to celebrate the opening of this year's fair on Tuesday, August 15th at 10 a.m. We'd like to send the correct RSVP to the fairground director. Currently, we have Councilmember Madewell and Deputy Mayor Martinez that is RSVP'd. Anybody else?
I will already be there.
So we'll need to put out a potential quorum. And Dustin Swartz is on there too. So on these types of events, it's nice to have a RSVP list in case there are 4 of us there, just to appease the Public Open Meetings Act. So anytime there's an event like that, just send a quick email to the clerk and they'll make sure to post appropriately. Thank you. Does council wish to have any business brought to a future meeting? Hearing none, we can move on to the city manager's report.
thank you, Mayor. I've got a few tonight, but I'm going to start with our Parks Director, Doug Coots, so you can recognize some staff.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Braden Helvey, I'm gonna get my glasses out here. Braden Helvey, Aniston Dana, Garrett Sands, and Ethan Bunch to join me up here, please. These young folks all work for us at Surf and Slide Water Park. This past Sunday, August 6th, lifeguard Braden Helvey was on the chair by the diving boards when a person came up to him yelling that they had a child choking. He immediately whistled, came down off the chair and took off sprinting. Once he got to the scene, he took the baby infant to the ground gently and checked for responsiveness and vital signs. He found a heartbeat and soft, almost choking type of breathing. Head guard Aniston Dana, responding from the surf shop area, arrived, took her resuscitation mask, put gloves on, and assisted Braden, the rescuing guard, in getting the baby to a recovery position and clearing the airway of foam forming at her mouth. Managers Garrett Sands and Ethan Bunch had heard the emergency signal from the office, and Ethan called 911 while Garrett grabbed the oxygen and AED, running out to the incident location. Ethan waited for the police to arrive and then brought them to the incident. At this point, Braden then felt the child go completely unresponsive. He reassessed her vital signs and found a slight pulse, but no breathing. Braden, at the direction of Aniston, followed the appropriate infant choking procedure, which dislodged additional foam from the infant's airway. This brought her back, and she started moving and slightly whining again. They then monitored the infant's conditions until vitals until EMS arrived and took over her care. The performance of these city employees in this highly stressful emergency was exemplary and deserving of recognition. I would like to thank them for a job well done. Thank you all.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, staff. Next is city manager search. I just want to throw this out to the council and also so the public can hear. We had over 30 candidates for city manager position. We have narrowed that down with HR's help to 6. This Friday, 3 council members and HR will conduct preliminary interviews to assess those 6 candidates, and hopefully we whittle it down to maybe 3 or 4. And then after it gets whittled down, then we will put together the interview panels with council, with staff, with directors, with the public, and with other, partner agencies, and put the interviews together. So that'll take a little while to put together. But so just to let the public know that we've started the process, and we're hoping that we can get a good candidate out of here for the next city manager spot. So as an update. Next, I have, we've talked about this, and I'm proposing to the council, Fire Chief Bastian has got fire impact fee information together to the point now we could have some sort of a study session. So I'm asking the council if you would entertain either next council meeting on the 22nd at 5:30 or the first meeting in September on the 12th at 6 p.m. Either one of those work for, and the reason it would be 5:30 next week or next meeting is because we have the Grant County Trends presentation at 6 with, I can't remember his name. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So we would do it at 5:30 before that, or we could do it in September at 6.
So what, refresh my memory on the budget workshop. When is that?
That's not,
No, I know it's not the same time, but this is another dollar item.
the budget workshop is in October. I think it's October.
September
Sorry.
23rd.
Yeah,
Okay.
last, yeah.
Because I'd like to go down that process. That's all I was trying to.
So, what's the preference? Next meeting, 5:30? Do I see head nods?
I prefer the 6 p.m. time, just to keep things
I'm not
short.
available the 22nd.
The 22nd, which is next meeting. So 6 o'clock on the 12th. Works? Head nods? We're good. Okay, that's what I got marked down. Okay. Two more things, graffiti cleanup. Councilmember Swartz, the graffiti cleanup that you asked to bring back next, at a future meeting. So I've drafted a municipal code from 8 other jurisdictions, most of which are larger than us, Tri-Cities agencies, top Lakewood, Marysville, Auburn, Yakima, Quincy, and Toppenish. I went through, I didn't realize this, but every one of these other city codes has graffiti nuisance separated out from the nuisance code. So it's its own nuisance code. And several of them have some really good information there, like rewards program where we can actually offer, the PD can actually offer a reward to people that turn people in for graffiti. And then the city can go after their parents to get that reimbursed, the graffiti, the award money back. They have information in here that asks businesses to put signage up and try as best they can to prohibit juveniles from buying what are considered graffiti implements, which includes paint, markers, stuff like that. There's prohibitions in here for juveniles to possess graffiti implements, which again is the paint, the markers, things like that. There's abatement programs in here. I've added some language in here for an abatement program that would for people that were didn't have the means, where we could in partnership with a business provide them with paintbrushes, paint trays, maybe some plastic to put down, and maybe a can of paint. And so is that what you're looking for if I were to put this ordinance out to the council at the next meeting for you to review?
Yes, I think that's along the lines. I mean, there's been people who have approached me that suggest there's monies available for this through ARPA and other things, but I think that's definitely a good start and something that it sounds like we can fund.
I will say that we can't use city funds to work on private property.
Right.
It's gifting of public funds. However, I think in partnership with maybe a business that we can find a way to be able to provide, especially there's the language in some of these ordinances where for people that asked for help because they didn't have the means. And I think in cases like that, we could find a way to provide them with the tools they would need to clean off the graffiti or repaint over the graffiti. And so I will, at the next meeting, I will provide you with a copy of this nuisance ordinance. Most of it came out of Lakewood, but I pulled some different items from other policy or the other codes and inserted them into this. So right now I'd given it to Kirsten and given it to the city attorney to review just to make sure that everything was on the up and up. And once I hear back from that, I will get it to the council at the next meeting and we can have further discussion. But I just want to make sure that that's what you were looking for.
Yep, that's great. Thank you.
Beautiful. And then
Sorry, we do have a few questions or comments from the council here. If you're okay with that?
oh yeah.
Councilmember Scott.
Well, let's beat the dead horse. I still want to figure out a way that the city can become responsible for the garbage. I know you say we can't work on private property.
No, it's not that we can't work on it.
Okay,
We can't pay for it.
Then, but we can have city employees pick it up.
So what I would say is if we are part of a larger community organization with other, say, nonprofits or whatever, and we were participating in a community event, then we could use staff if it's a public safety issue. Okay. And that's kind of the distinction. It has to be public safety. So what Catherine told me last week was if somebody had, say, a bunch of needles strewn about their property, that becomes a public safety issue. We could then go in there again with this group and clean that stuff up. But if there's just garbage there, somebody leaves a shopping cart full of crap on their property, that's not a public safety issue. So that's not something we could do. So it's almost case by case, depending on the severity of whatever the issue is. As a community though, and here's a good example. We had this last year. Officer Harum went out with Recovery Navigator, some folks from Renew, with the high school, and they did a cleanup of some of the property behind the movie theater. Again, part of a larger group. We use staff time for it with these other community organizations. We didn't write a check to do anything. We just kind of went in there and cleaned it up ourselves, and then we actually disposed of it. So things like that we could do. But again, we can't just create a fund and then just write the check to pay for somebody to go in and clean it up.
I get the pay.
Yeah, we could do something as a,
But I just see a lot of these projects, somebody says to somebody, this is a mess, then the compliance, a code enforcement comes in, and then they say they'll get to it, and they don't get to it. And I'm of the opinion that the whole mess is a social problem, not that landowner's problem. And as a social problem, I think we are all responsible to deal with it, not the poor guy who had some campers. Now, you talked about people letting people stay on their property. I want to put that as a whole different issue.
I get it. These are trespassers.
Right.
Yeah.
But as far as just picking stuff up and looking at some garbage on the side of the street and going, well, that landowner has to fix it, and they've been given a notice to, and they somehow come back with a financial hardship, and that goes to some decision-making process. And then somebody finally decides maybe we can do something. And then 3 weeks later, it's gone or something gets done. And I think you could almost take every single incident and call it a health hazard, biomass, you couldn't take any of those to a doctor's clinic. They'd put everything in a biohazard thing. So I mean, I guess if you want to call it a health hazard, every one of those carts, nobody in this room would go grab that cart and take the stuff out without gloves on.
Yeah, I get that, but gloves is different than like you've got needles and stuff like that. That's where the public safety hazard comes in, is if somebody pokes themselves with a needle. And you're right, you never know what's in any of the garbage. I get that.
Okay, so I think if we could designate those all public health issue hazards and get them cleaned up immediately and spend ARPA money for city people to do it, I don't know why we can't. I get what we're saying, but I would like to see a workaround that and make that happen. And so the stuff next to AutoZone is gone. The carts that get left are gone. They just get dealt with or yeah. But
And what I'd say is let us maybe chat with some organizations in the city that are kind of like-minded.
Right.
And see if we can maybe build a group together where maybe once a month or a couple of times a month or something like that, as a group, people can go out and with property owner's permission can go out and clean up some of these issues.
with proper protection, did you say?
Proper protection, but protection in also in that we can't be on private property if they don't allow us to be.
Would Department of Health be interested in something like that?
The health department? Yeah, they might be involved. I mean, they were involved with us with the needle exchange and stuff like that. So they might be interested in something like that. I think, again, we've got Serve Moses Lake, we've got Renew, Recovery Navigator, the groups that work with our homeless populations. I think they would be we would reach out to them first.
Deputy Mayor Martinez?
I just wanted to share with the audience and the council that I belong to a group of elected officials, which consists, and it's a statewide group, consists of city council members, mayors, party commissioners, county commissioners, school board members. Anyway, I've been reaching out to this group, and thus far, nobody is using ARPA money. There are some programs, just like what Kevin referred to, where they have an agreement where a particular supply store supplies them or donates a graffiti toolkit that has paint brushes and paint, that sort of thing. That community members can contact the city and get one of those to help fix their problem. So thus far, my research and my contacts are saying no. There's no ARPA money that is being used or can be used. I do like the idea, as we're talking about this, in involving the community with cleanups. I mean, MLIRD does it for Lakeshore cleanup. I can see where it could be successful in those who have been showing up at meetings and have voiced their concern about how our city looks. This would be a great opportunity to kind of put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, and volunteer to help clean up. So I would like to pursue that if all possible.
Prior to COVID, we used to partner with Job Corps every year, and Job Corps would send us, two dozen kids, and we would go around the city and clean up spots. After COVID, we haven't had that contact, which we can do. I just signed a new agreement with them just yesterday, so we might reach out to them and see if they want to participate in that again. But Les Schwab would donate the big yellow tire bags, and we would fill those up, and property owners would give us permission to go on. I took them up on the property behind the cinema. I think it was 2018 or 2019. It was a little bit out of our control as far as the size of that, but we cleaned up a bunch of places in the city. And that's, again, another one of those organizations that we would reach out to.
Councilmember Madewell?
So I have a question about, excuse me, about the graffiti. If people are caught doing the graffiti, can they be part of cleaning it up?
So that was in a couple of the codes that I read, but here's the problem. We don't control the juveniles once they're charged. They go through Grant County Juvenile Court. And so the judge could issue or could require them to do cleanup as part of their sentence. But and then they could refer them to us to have them clean up areas in the city, but we don't control that. That's controlled through the court. The one thing, and I mentioned this, it's in the new ordinance that the new code that I've drafted, but the reward piece, we can issue up to $300 reward for people that turn somebody ends, and if they're convicted, then we can go after the parents for that $300 if the kid's a juvenile. So there is a way to get some of that money back for the reward, but as far as the cleanup goes, that would have to come from the courts.
So is that something that can be suggested to the
Oh, yeah,
courts?
we absolutely. I remember back, again, I'm old, keep that in mind. Back in the 90s, any kid that was caught graffitiing back then in Adams County on Saturday mornings, they would come out and they would be scrubbing walls and painting and all that stuff. Unfortunately, those days are long gone, but we can ask the courts to look at doing restitution as physical labor as opposed to money. Yeah. Any other questions?
Councilmember Fancher?
I was just gonna make a comment back. The other big group, we had the citywide cleanups, actually. I think it was Vision 2020 did that, and it was an entire citywide cleanup into pods. As a matter of fact, the Board of Realtors was involved in that at the time and had vests made up and bags donated. And then we actually all had huge dumpsters down at the parking lot where the water slides are. And that's where they met. And then you would be assigned an area of the community. Probably, I'll bet you there was 400 or 500 people on a particular day. And then somebody, I think, it was probably Michael's, because they did most of them, donated a burger and hot dog or sausage feed, afterwards for everybody. But it was the city participated in all the things they could participate, provide probably dumpsters and different things like that. But it was the group of Vision 2020 back then that group spearheaded it and then went to all the various service groups.
Was that the one that Billy Curt was involved in?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah. And that kind of slowly, and I think it petered out before COVID, but it had probably at least a good 10-year run, and you would get, huge dumpsters full of
Well, I wonder if we maybe don't approach the Realtors Association again and see if
Yeah,
we can maybe
or,
rejuvenate that.
Yeah, some of those groups, yeah.
Okay,
So you're gonna bring this back at a future meeting?
I will bring it back at a future meeting, probably not the next meeting, but we will bring it back at the future meeting.
Councilmember Skog, did you have anything else that you wanted to add, or do you want to wait until? Do you want to, is it something that can wait till the next one? Or?
Just one thing, can we make it a point of going to the court and asking them to do something?
We can just ask the court if, when we catch a kid doing graffiti, if we can ask them to issue work instead of a monetary penalty.
Okay,
Now,
who's going to do that?
well, here's the problem. Again, this is through Grant County Juvenile. So if they were to allow that, then somebody would have to then monitor them while they're doing it. And that question comes up would Grant County Juvenile have to do that, or would they require us to do that? And that's the question. So.
What if we do it, can we ask them to send them back to us? And you figure out how to man that?
We could do that. I don't know that I'd necessarily want to cop babysitting a kid on a Saturday morning painting over graffiti. But we could have that conversation.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the last one is, I don't think anybody will volunteer to pick up the garbage that's out there in the health condition today. 5 years ago, but I think if we're looking for volunteers to clean up this stuff, that's not viable.
We would provide them with PPEs, with protective equipment. I get that, but I think there are people out there that do it, or we give them the little sticks that they pick up.
Goes with a thumb and go and put it in the dumpster.
Anything else, Mayor, on this? Or can we move on to the next one?
Yes, we can move on.
So speaking of junk, our next is going to be the shopping cart retrieval program. Kirsten, are you taking that, or am I?
We've actually had the code enforcement team do some of the research on that. And we actually do have Tina Jewell, one of our code enforcement officers, here to speak for this.
It's in your packet, but we wanted Tina to present it to you if you had questions.
Hi, Tina Jewell, code enforcement. So in July, we contacted 10 local grocery retail stores and inquired about their grocery cart retrieval program, if they have one, who's responsible, and how often they do retrieve the carts. 5 of them indicated they do have programs, and they do frequently go out and pick up the carts. The other 5 indicated they don't. However, they're very concerned about the community, and they do want to go out and pick them up. We also inquired about the locking mechanisms on the carts, and they indicate that's a great expense for the stores to incur. We have recently contacted the stores to let them know when we see a concentration of carts and or individual carts, such as Safeway. Ed, the manager, is very great that we call him, or grateful that we call him, and he goes out and picks them up. He did indicate those carts are about $230 a piece. So he is wanting to get as many back as he can. So as we see them out there, of course, they are everywhere, but as we see them, we do contact the local stores and let them know. The biggest violators that we do see out there are Walmart and Safeway. So. Any other questions?
Councilmember Skog?
Could you look into getting the Moses Lake wrestling team to do that, clean the carts? And I'm serious, that if you said all the high school boys with pickups and they go pick them up and sell them back at a $25 or $30, and wash them off. But I would think we could get a fundraiser for, I'm really serious.
Yeah.
That boys would go out and pick them up and put them in a pen, whether it's at the city maintenance building.
Yeah, other local jurisdictions or cities do have people that they hire, companies they hire to go out and pick up the carts, and those companies charge the stores for the return fee to the store with the carts. And so
I'm just thinking it'd be a neat volunteer civic project that could raise money.
Right, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't
And then
think
they
code
go get the
enforcement would
carts
have the
from the
authority
lot
to,
and sell them back, but they would probably wouldn't do that.
right.
That might be worth you reaching out to coaches and athletic directors and.
I will do that.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thanks.
Mayor, that is all I have tonight.
Item number 1 is the consent agenda. All items are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Just need a motion to approve. We got
I so move.
I'll second.
Councilmember Fancher as a,
I just need to recuse myself from the Maple Landing.
so we're gonna pull that item, vote on the,
Right.
okay. We just need a motion to approve without item D.
I so move we approve the consent agenda with the exception of item D, which we'll vote on separately.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Did we get a vote for Councilmember Eck? Okay,
Yes.
okay, thank you. And then Councilmember Fancher, if you'd like to step out on this one. Item number D, the Maple Landing one, phase 2. Just need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2, a new business revision of ARPA spending plan would be presented by Madeline Prentice, our finance director.
Good evening, council. In your packet, you have a staff report that discusses the ARPA spending that was approved during the 2023 budget. And we have several items that are related to water, items that we had approved previously or you had approved previously as part of the 23 budget. In looking at these projects, we have determined that these funds would be better spent on water remediation to try and get us to a point for items that we've identified as being able to either get filtration systems in place or other items that we've determined we can make some significant impact immediately. So what we're requesting tonight is that we take these funds that were previously approved for different ARPA projects and move them to water remediation. And we've kind of left it as a vague category for water remediation so that we can quickly use it for whatever purposes and whatever fixes that we can find immediately to use these funds for. So we're requesting a motion to accept this revision to the ARPA spending plan for 23.
Any questions or comments from the council? Councilmember Scog?
I'd just like to make a note that we're taking the water thing very seriously, and where we can move funds around, we're aggressively doing that. And I appreciate, Madeline, your work in getting those funds, because you're literally talking several millions of dollars. And I think the public needs to know that the water issue is a big deal, and it's not going to go away without some aggressive decisions and plans. So I would move. I move that we move those funds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the revised ARPA spending plan as presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Councilmember Eck, was that a for or against motion?
Against, Mr. Mayor.
Against, okay, so 6-1. Thank you, Councilmember Eck, for the clarification. Motion passes. On to item number 3 of new business, the municipal services retitled Public Works Ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. I brought this up to the council, either the last meeting or the meeting before, about changing municipal services to public works. It's just, frankly, it should be public works. It'll help us, I think, attract the public works director. We just need to, and you saw in the packet, we need to change the ordinance so that we can, and there may be a slight cost to changing our code. But it's the right thing to do. So I just need your approval so that we can move forward with changing municipal services to public works.
Councilmember Schwartz.
This question's for Richard. Do you consider yourself more of a public worker or a municipal server?
Public Works. That is the nomenclature throughout the country. We've always been a unicorn with this municipal services title. And so for people coming into the community, for people looking for work, it's a bit confusing. So I would heartily agree with changing the title so that it's just less confusing for everybody coming into the community.
I agree. Thank you.
And Richard said heartily, not hardly agree.
I have noticed on a lot of different city websites that it's Public Works. So we do need a motion to approve.
I so move.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the administrative reports.
Thank you, Mayor. You know what? I didn't ask any of the directors. Do we have anything tonight? Oh, Madeline has something.
I just wanted to give Councilmember Madewell an update on the lithium ion batteries that you brought up last week. We do have some literature at our utility counter regarding disposable of lithium ion batteries, as well as we're going to be putting some communication on the utility bills in September regarding the disposal of lithium ion batteries. So
Thank
that is
you.
coming out.
Thanks.
Mayor, I believe that is it for admin reports.
Moving right along. Council committee reports. Start with Councilmember Schwartz.
Yes, quick update on Sister City happenings. I did get some various mock-ups of some ideas for the park on Yanazawa Boulevard for a monument. So that's exciting. Hopefully that's moving forward rapidly.
Councilmember Madewell,
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Councilmember Fancher,
Nothing for me.
Councilmember Scog.
Then we had finance committee and again, Madeline kind of right on top of things. Nothing really major going on other than moving funds around. That is going to be a big deal. And we talked about funding some temporary and portable water filtering systems that were being looked into aggressively. And I think we will have the will and the funds to do that project.
Councilmember Eck,
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Martinez.
Regarding the finance committee, there was one thing that will be coming up to us in a future meeting. In order to get the codes rewritten, that one of the job postings still hasn't been filled. So there's a recommendation that we utilize the consultant to help continue to move that forward so we don't have another delay or lag on there. But Kirsten will be bringing it up at a future meeting. And then not council committee meeting related, but Grant County Fair opens up on Tuesday. Tuesday's free day. They've also changed, they're doing something new this year. If you get through the gates before 3:00, it's free as well. So that'll be cost savings for everybody. And then I encourage people, if you are not involved in a organization here in the city, this is a big week for our nonprofits like Lions Club, Columbia Basin Cancer Foundation, all sorts of foundations and groups that raise money for their jobs, for the things that they're involved with. And this week that fair week is when they get a lot of their funds. So either volunteer so that they can keep their booth open, or make sure to spend their money, your money at their booth. I think that's about it.
Councilmember Madewell, you have a question?
No, I want to just make a comment to Madeline. The tabulation of claims paid. This looks really nice. Thank you so much. This was just a really nice addition to this, and I just wanted to say thank you very much. Looks great.
Councilmember Scogden.
And just on another aside, next week, my brother Eric and I are going to be in Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. And we will be part of a dedication of a first wing of a elementary school that's being built. And it's actually called the Moses Lake Elementary School. It's been funded by just some local people. Robert Schiffner has been instrumental in getting that off the ground, and he's spent a couple of years going there quite regularly. And so not necessarily an official capacity, but it will be kind of fun I'll send some pictures of the Moses Lake Academy in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe. And that'll be kind of exciting to see.
Thank you for the update. I'd just like to share some appreciation of Deputy Mayor Martinez. She filled in for me the last two meetings, and I didn't hear of any riots or uproars, so greatly appreciate it. Anything else for the good of the order?
Mayor, I would just add one more thing. Friday is Cowboy Breakfast. If you get a chance, go. It's a great time to interact with the community. Oh, sorry, Nelson, I didn't mean to take that from you. Oh, okay. Yeah. Giddy up.
Next regular council meeting is August 22nd at 6:30 with a study session 6 o'clock. With the study session, Patrick Jones from the EWU presenting on Granite County trends. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.